Welcome back to The Growth Guide. Today we have Nicky Billou. Nicky's the #1 international best-selling author of books like Finish Line Thinking and The Power of Connecting. Nicky is a 2-time New York Times best-selling author, a sought-after speaker for corporate giants like RBC, Lululemon, and an advisor to Canada's top entrepreneurs. As a founder of eCircle Academy, Nicky runs a game-changing mastermind and educational program for service-based entrepreneurs. Nicky also hosts the #1 podcast on thought leadership, where he's interviewed over 500 top thought leaders, including astronaut Chris Hadfield, Barbara from Shark Tank, and more. Nicky, thank you for joining us today.
Keigan, thanks for having me on the show. Honored to be here.
So first, I want to start off. Hosting the #1 podcast on thought leadership is widely impressive. What inspired you to start the thought leadership revolution, and what have been some key insights from your interviews?
Great question. So I have a business mentor. His name is Mark Von Muser, and he's absolutely amazing. Mark was Tony Robbins' director of coaching and training. He helped Tony take his coaching business basically from practically nothing to over 30 million a year. And he also helped other departments really ramp up their sales. And he's a brilliant thinker, and he's a man who is very much like my father. He believes that life is a people game, not a numbers game. And he's been somebody who's been drilling that into my head, just like my father did. My father used to tell me when I was a kid, son, remember, life's about people, not money. And I go, okay, Dad, I'm like 8 years old, right? And then he goes, remember, also, business is about people, not money. I go, wait a minute, Dad, my 8-year-old super smart self, right? What are you talking about? Of course, business is about money. You have to have the money to do business. I'm thinking, I'm so smart. I'm 8, right? Yes, son, that's true. But without people, there's no need for money. You always have to remember that every human being there, that's someone's mother, that's someone's father, that's someone's brother, that's someone's sister. That's a hero to somebody. And your job is to absolutely show them that good humans exist. There's a lot of charlatan marketers out there. You know what I'm talking about? These are the people that are charlatans. They're really good at selling the sizzle, but they don't give you no steak. They pretend there's steak there, but there ain't none of that there. So Mark, my mentor, and I were talking about, and he said, Nicky, you're a great dude, man. You love people. You're my kind of dude. You need to do podcasting. I'm like, podcasting? What do you mean podcasting? Like interview people and stuff? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't think I want to be a talk show host, man. He's like, no, man. It's about talking to some of the smartest people in the world and learning from them. And that got my attention. So what we wanted to do with the Thought Leader Revolution is start to interview the smartest people in the world. And that's what we started to do. We interviewed a lot of brilliant people. And here's the coolest thing is I've learned something from every guest that's been on my show. So, 500 plus interviews later, I'm like, wow, man, I am one well-coached dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, podcasting is a sneaky way to basically just get free value out of people. Like
Free
for
coaching,
myself,
baby.
exactly. I'm interviewing you, and it's like I can ask questions that just I want to know, and it goes live in its branding.
100%. These people, if you were to try to hire them, most of them you probably couldn't, but they'd cost you tens of thousands of dollars for just like 15 minutes to a half an hour of their time. So there you go.
Exactly. You frame it as a podcast, and all of a sudden you got them for free for an hour.
That's it, man. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Shh, don't tell anybody.
With your point of marketers, you use the term charlatan. That's 100% true. Like for me, a digital marketing agency, I'm young, I'm 22 years old. There's a stigma around us, and it's that people step over their mother for a $2,000 a month retainer. And it's very true. And it's, so it's like one of the things I have my passion around is breaking that stigma. Like you said, the sizzle's there, but not the steak, and they'll sell you on everything. But then when it comes down to it, they're not getting your results. They're not really doing anything for you at the end of the day.
No, 100%, and like my father and Mark always say to me, you've got to make sure that you're there to make a difference for people. I'll tell you my backstory. So I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, back in 1978, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall. This wasn't going to be a place to raise a Christian family. So he and my mom sat down, they made a plan, and they eventually got us out of Iran. And we settled in Toronto, where I now live, right? I'm a fellow Canuck, just like yourself. And when they first told us we were leaving, I was pissed off. I mean, I was 11, man. These were my friends. This was my home. I didn't want to go. But looking back in retrospect, this was the single greatest thing they could have possibly done for us. They took us from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom. And it takes an immigrant like me to really appreciate how precious freedom is. Because here in Canada right now, unfortunately, we've had a situation over the last several years where government, especially the federal government, has been stepping all over people's rights and freedoms. Our prime minister decided to use something called the Emergencies Act, which is a wartime measures act designed to protect Canadians from an enemy that's trying to invade us against Canadians that disagreed with him politically. He froze their bank accounts. He went after them. Thank God a federal court ruled that was unconstitutional and illegal. But all of us who are fair-minded could see that was insane. I mean, I don't agree with everybody politically, but I'm certainly not going to go seize their bloody bank accounts if I'm in power to say, hey, man, you and I don't agree. I'm going to ruin your life. Let's go do that, right? And that's why it's important for people like me to be in countries like Canada, because we show you what tyranny looks like from where we come from, and we are the staunchest defenders of freedom. And every immigrant that's come here from a tyrannical country can tell you that. And we got here, and I'm super grateful. I've been a champion for freedom. It underlies everything that I talk about, and everything that I do is how important it is to live in a free society, because every human heart within it beats the living heart of freedom. And we all want that. We all need that. It's super, super important. Now, my dad was an entrepreneur, greatest man I ever knew. If you met him, Keigan, you were looking for work, he'd sit you down in his office. He'd call all his business owner pals till one of them hired you. He would not let go. And he said, I got a friend. He needs a job. You need people. Hire him. This is how much you're going to pay him. Until one of them said, okay, fine, Napoleon, I'll do it. Right? That's how it was. And he'd tell you, Keigan, you start in 10 minutes. Get out of here. I got you a good salary. You owe me a nice kebab dinner, right? He loved his kebabs, right? That was his thing. So he'd send you out. And then, if you were trying to start a business, he'd sit you down. He'd give you advice. He'd get you access to capital. He'd even find you some clients, and if you were a friend of his, you were trying to buy a car, a house, you went to the bank, they wouldn't give you enough money. You needed a bit of a top up to get that house, that car. He'd say, okay, here's a loan. Go buy it. And you'd go and you'd buy it. And then later on, when you tried to pay him back, you go, no, you don't pay me back, man. That was a gift. He goes, but you said it was a loan. No, go away. He talked like that, right? And people would just, to this day, bro, he passed on almost 4 years ago. To this day, people reach out to me who knew him, who I've never met, never heard of them, don't know them. And they come to me and they go, are you Napoleon Billou's son? And I go, yes. And they go, I want to shake your hand. And they shake my hand and they say, your father is the greatest man I've ever known. And I want you to know what he did for me. And I just sit down and I hear a variation of their story of, he gave them money that nobody else would give them. He got them a job that they couldn't find on their own. He helped them get started in business. So they went from being like this broke kid with a dream to being a multimillionaire. And I'm like, when he passed on, he passed the torch to me, because he always would say, you gotta be for people. You got to believe in people. And I think every human being needs someone to believe in them, someone to create that spark of belief that will eventually inside of them turn into a roaring fire of belief. And that's my job. I believe in people. I love on people. I pour into them and I help them win, because every human being needs someone to believe in them, especially when their belief in themselves goes wobbly, and they need someone to show them how to be persuasive and persuade other people of their visions, their dreams, their purpose. Because if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to win. And inside the work we do from a thought leadership point of view, that's what we're all about. We show people how to position themselves powerfully. We show them how to be persuasive in sales conversations, overcome objections, and have messages that just, boom, attract. That's what it's all about, belief and persuasion.
And like you said at the beginning, everything starts with people. And touching on your father a little bit, good people now are rare. It feels like you run into a good person. It's like a pleasant surprise almost. It's the world's just full of shit.
Well, I agree that the world is full of charlatans, but I will push back hard against that. I believe the world is full of incredible people.
Okay.
There's a poem called Desiderata, and I highly recommend you go out there on Google, you grab it and you read it, and then maybe find a copy as a poster size that you can buy and then post it on your wall. But one of the lines in the poem, they said, "Be careful in your business dealings, for there are charlatans and deceivers everywhere." But they also said, "Let this not make you cynical about human nature, because there are many people who strive for high ideals, and everywhere, and I do mean everywhere, life is full of heroism." I met the great Tamara Lick, Métis grandmother in her 50s, organizer of the Freedom Convoy that got our freedoms back here in Canada, because they were the ones who had the guts to push against the Trudeau government, against the insane vaccine travel mandates, where if you hadn't taken this jab, would not be allowed to travel. I mean, you think about this. This was an experimental jab. I come from a family of medical people. My father imported and exported medical equipment into Iran. My mother was a nurse for 30 years. I know a lot about vaccines and developing vaccines, and I interviewed Dr. Joe Wang, who spent 20 years as a top virologist developing vaccines. Like these, we are not anti-vaxxers. We believe in vaccines. And yet we saw that this was just a massive money grab that was foisted on us. And I got to meet the great Tamara Lick, who is being threatened with jail for the rest of her natural life, yet cheerfully goes out there, fights the good fight, stands up for our freedoms. Mark von Musser, my coach, an incredible man who goes out of his way to be of service to people. He is a man who is the greatest salesman I've ever seen, but it's all heart-based, and he's not driven by money. And he makes a lot of money, but he also gives a lot away very quietly, but he does it. There's the great Elon Musk, who bought Twitter and turned it into X, and has so far lost $30 billion of his own money buying that company because he believed in free speech. Come on, man. You can't tell me if you don't look, you won't find heroic people out there, because you will.
So transitioning a bit to your book and the power of connecting. Obviously, for those who don't know, who haven't read it, it emphasizes activating profitable relationships. What's the key principle or strategy from the book that our listeners can apply now?
Well, I'll tell you something. If you really, really want to connect with people, the first thing you need to do is look at your own network of people. You know a lot of people, and a lot of people know you. And if you decide, I want to meet 5 more great people just like Keigan, let's say, I'd known you for 10 years, and I just go, I want to meet 5 more great people. Man, what's the best way to meet someone like you? Well, through you. Who knows more people like you than you? You're the sum total of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So that's the way to do it. And I'll tell you, for me, when I want to meet new people, I go into my network and I tell my people, listen, I think you might need to meet somebody. And I think about someone they need to meet. And then I go, can you return the favor? Who do I need to meet? And I don't let go of the conversation until they give me a name and they make the connection. And if you do that once a day for the next 100 days, I double dog dare you. For the next 100 days, connect somebody with somebody and ask to be connected to somebody. You'll meet 100 new people. I mean, think about that. That's incredible. You're probably going to end up doing business with between 5 and 25 of them.
100%. And podcasting is a great way to do that. It's, I'm sure you know, but for me, at like 75, 80% of my podcast guests or shows that I've been on turn into clients anyways.
That's a fact. I teach a course called Get Booked and Get Paid. It's all about being a guest on other people's shows and how to turn that into money.
Exactly. The power of people. So since you're a top advisor for most of the successful entrepreneurs in Canada, can you share who those are and the best piece of advice that you can give entrepreneurs today?
So look, there's people who, the more famous people that I've worked with, they don't really like having their name shared. So
of course.
I'm gonna demur on that.
Yep.
But I can tell you the people that will let me share that I've done some work with them. I've worked with Olympic gold medalist Mark McCoy. He was actually a business partner of mine. At one point, I worked with Olympic champion Donovan Bailey. out of the work I did with him, I wrote a few books. One of them is the Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion. Mark wrote the foreword for that book. And what I learned from working with champion athletes is that you too can win in life if you have the mentality of a champion athlete, which is victory. They believe in victory. And if they lose, they fail, they're like, okay, this is just part of the process. I want to get up and I'm going to get it sorted out. And that really is what you need to do if you want to be successful at anything.
100% agree with you. I mean, I always say in marketing specifically, I'm always looking to fail. Obviously, you're talking more in life, more in business. It's more of like a broad thing, but even something as simple as marketing, you're actively looking to try and lose so you can figure out what works and you can win faster.
Yeah. Amen. 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 Yeah.
So, what is thought leadership and how can you position yourself as a branded thought leader so that your ideal clients come to you?
That's a great question. So, Matt Church, who's a fellow whose work I've followed and I consider him a mentor, once said the difference between an expert and a thought leader is the best way to understand what a thought leader is. An expert's someone who knows something, but experts are a dime a dozen. You can find them anywhere. But a thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable. And in order to become a thought leader, you really need to do some thinking. So I'll give you an example from a client of mine. This gentleman, his name was Dan Isker. Dan, when I met him, was in his early 20s. Not very different from you. He was a fitness trainer. Great kid, but didn't know anything about business. Didn't have a lot of clients. He had like 7 clients. He made like $1,300 a month. It was crazy. That's a good month for him, right? And when he came to me, he says, like, I want to grow my business. I want to make $1 million. I'm like, okay, that's awesome, Dan. So you're a fitness trainer, right? He goes, yeah. Tell me, who do you work with? And he goes, oh man, Nikki, I can work with anybody, man. Anybody. Huh? Yeah, man, I can help him lose weight. I can help him pack on muscle. I can help him do it all. I'm like, Danny, that's not going to work. No, but I can do it. So I said, Danny, we need to narrow your focus. Narrow my focus? I go, yeah. Narrow your niche and narrow the type of work that you do. He goes, okay. I'm going to help doctors lose weight. I'm like, okay, why? My dad's a doctor. Okay. They make a lot of money. I'm like, no, Danny, no. We're not going after the money. No, I'm doing it. He got like 2 clients in 6 months. It was crazy. Danny, it ain't working. We got to change the surrounding. Okay. Cardiologist. What? They make more money than doctors. No, Danny, no, not about the money. No, I'm doing it. 0 cardiologists in 6 months. Danny, we need to change this. Okay, I know. Serendipity, luck, smiles on Danny and says, Danny, you're going to meet somebody. A man with a missing limb, a Paralympian. His name is Papito Wilson. They did great work together. He helped Papito win some medals at some competitions. It was a big deal. And he comes to me all sheepish going, Nikki, I messed up, man. I should listen to you. I went after the money, didn't I? I go, yeah, you did. That was dumb, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Okay, now I've been working with Papito. I want to help people with missing limbs. I really know how to help people with missing limbs. I go, this sounds good, Danny. Let's go with this. And we put something together. Brother, in 6 weeks, he signed up 400 clients. 400 clients. Remember, he did one-on-one in-person personal training. That was no longer possible after his like 15th client. He had to create some sort of online program, which we did together. Remember, he made $1,200 or $1,300 on a good month. He now made over $100,000 a month. $100,000 a month. That was a 100-fold increase in his income. Now, let's just say in a month, right? 100 grand, you're working 150 hours. So this dude was making close to $750 an hour at 150 hours. And that's some crazy stuff, bro. Crazy. Now, why? Why? Because he found a niche that nobody else was going after. And his message wasn't just, hey, man, come work out. His message was, you're a man or a woman with a missing limb. You can do anything anyone else can do. You can be a strong, powerful, badass warrior, and I will help you. Now, you think about this for just a minute, Keigan. Put yourself in the shoes of someone with a missing limb. You think that message might resonate with you just a little bit? Just a tiny,
Thousand
tiny, tiny
percent.
bit? That's thought leadership, brother.
Okay. Um, so, as an example, of somebody's, let's say, marketing agency, right? Because myself, not really niche down. What would your advice be? Is it same thing? Find a niche that nobody's going after, dial in that messaging that resonates with them, or is it something a little bit different?
It's close to that. Not necessarily a niche that nobody's going after, but a niche that touches your heart. I think that's far more important. Dan cared about Papito, and he
Mm-hmm.
came to care about people with missing limbs, and that caring is what people saw. It didn't matter that nobody was going after it. I mean, that was just a happy accident, honestly.
Yeah.
What mattered is that people could see this guy gave a shit. He really just gave a shit. And you think about that. You think about that. Like, let's say, I don't know, you're going after dentists. I just made that up. And let's just say that you had worked with a dentist and he reminded you of your grandfather or whatever, and you helped this guy like be able to get as ready as practice for sale. And he was able to sell it for $1 million rather than need to work another 10 years, work himself to the bone and to death. And you saw that you did this man and his family a solid. You helped him move into the sunset of his life, in a wonderful way rather than a stressful way. And you just thought, oh my God, I'm going to work with dentists that are getting close to retirement and haven't set themselves up for retirement. I'm going to turn their business into something with repeatable marketing, sales engine. And let's say you just got in front of a few of them and you said, hey, this is what I do. Is this a problem you're facing right now? Trust me, they'd feel it if you were for real. They feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd say, I want to work with you, man. Yeah, let's talk. And before you know it, you'll have more clients than you know how to deal with.
And I feel like that goes hand in hand with selling without coming across as sales is actually giving a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Like as my dad and Mark said at the beginning, that's someone's mother, that's someone's brother, that's someone's father, that's someone's sister. And you got to treat them like a human being and they'll feel it. They'll feel it. Look, I love helping good people that are in business make their first million. It makes me happy because it's the toughest thing for people to do. Getting started in business, it's tough.
Yep.
And when I help a young man, a young woman, or even someone who's a little bit older who's struggled, get out of struggle, nothing makes me happier. Nothing makes me happier than infusing someone with a belief that they didn't previously have in themselves.
It's a powerful message. It really is. So, talking about people, getting people out of that struggle, how can people generate $1 million income in 3 years or less, no matter how much or little they make now?
Well, thought leadership really is the way. Um, if I were advising, say, you,
Mm-hmm.
first thing I'd tell you is, um, who are you really moved to help? Who do you care about? And the second thing I do is do a deep dive into your self belief around you. How much belief do you have in you and your ability to do this? So a lot of people will say, oh, yeah, I believe, but they really don't. Let's just be straight up honest. They really don't.
Yep.
It's a mask, it's a happy face, it's not
Yep.
real. And I have been blessed by God with an ability to see the best in somebody and their greatness, as my mentor Mark von Musser loves to say. And if I run into somebody and I can see that they're not believing in themselves, that's where my focus goes, is for them to feel my belief in them and to work with them to help them start to take that spark of belief that I have to light their own belief candle and then turn it into a roaring fire. Once that belief is there, we got to maintain your frequency, your energy at a high level, and then you got to take that love for humanity and bring it to people. And when they feel that, the rest of what we have to do is around thought leadership, the strategies of how to have you be seen as a go-to thought leader in your space, a niche message, a niche target market, appropriate pricing for your programs, because most people massively undercharge. And if we do that, you'll get there. You'll absolutely get there.
So we talked a little bit about charlatan marketers. For those who don't know, you explain that a bit, and how would you go about avoiding people like that?
A charlatan marketer is a charlatan. They're basically a deceiver. They don't really care whether they deliver anything to you. They're just really good at selling the sizzle, right? It's a happy accident if you take their programs and you get anything out of it, right? It's not because they actually cared to make sure you got an outcome. And I would take a look and find people that you know who've done work with the people you're considering working with and speak to them. I would go read up what's being said about them online, good and bad, because everyone's going to have haters. And if, someone's got no haters, I'd be a little bit suspicious. You know what I mean? And you got to listen to your gut. There's got to be an alignment. Like I was on a call with someone today, and it was a good call, and I felt good about this person, but there was something a little bit off. And so I decided I didn't want to open up a conversation door to have them work with me. And so I didn't, I kind of danced around it, but normally when I really want to work with somebody, I ask them, do you want to have a call?
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. And I felt good about not doing it. And if you don't feel alignment, Mark says that the leaders of today are the ones who are the most aligned, the most congruent, and willing to serve their fellow man. So you got to be looking for someone who's aligned with you and you align with them. They're congruent, what they say and how they show up and match. And they want to serve people. It's not about, let me get rich and the hell with you. We got enough of that in our elites and our prime minister here in Canada.
As we wrap up, you've interviewed a wide range of people on your podcast. What's a particular interview or moment that really inspired you?
Dude, man, there's tens of thousands.
I believe that.
I've had Mark, my mentor, on my show 11 times. Mm-hmm. What I just said right now is that the leaders of tomorrow, really the leaders of today, are the ones who are the most aligned, the most congruent, and the most willing to serve their fellow man. I think that was a brilliant thing that he said, and I've R&D'd that. Rip off and duplicate, brother.
Finally, what's the final piece of wisdom or encouragement you would like to leave our listeners with?
The last 4 years have been tough on everybody, you included. And if you have lost a little bit of faith and belief in yourself, you're a child of God. You were put here for a purpose, a mighty purpose. And if you don't believe in yourself enough right now, come talk to me. Let us infuse some of my belief in you until your belief rises strongly enough that you don't need it.
Nikki, where can our listeners find you?
At Nicky Billou, anywhere on social media, or if you're a business owner and you want to have a call about taking you, your business, your belief in yourself and your business to another level, go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Jump on my calendar. Let's talk.
And anybody listening, I will include that in the description so that it's easy to find Nikki. Nikki, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate our conversation.
Thanks for having me on the show, Keigan. Appreciate it.
Guys, that was an interview with Nicky Billou, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.